Have you read about how Leonard Bernstein's composition Times Square captures a moment in history? First, let's hear what conductor Emile Decoux has to say about the composition Times Square.
Leonard Bernstein captures a moment in American history with his ballet On the Town. The piece Times Square is about a moment of World War II of New York filled with energy and, moreover, filled with hot jazz.
Let's get ready for the Times Square listening activity. Let's start by warming up your imagination. Go back in time to 1944. New York City. The United States has been fighting World War II for 3 long years. But now, the U.S. feels confident that it is going to win the war. A spirit of hopefulness begins to sweep through the country. Leonard Bernstein composes a musical to capture the spirit of this moment in time. In Bernstein's story, 3 sailors are finally given a day off from their long, hard work in the Navy. They are bursting with excitement because they will spend their one free day in New York City, a place of glamour and adventure. One sailor's name is Ozzie, a happy-go-lucky fellow. Another sailor's name is Gaby, a romantic type. In the subway, Gaby sees a poster of a gorgeous New York lady, and he decides that he must meet her. As he and his 2 buddies leave the subway, they step into the hustle and bustle of one of New York City's busiest places, Times Square, where they hope to find this glamorous lady. We'll call her Miss New York. Bernstein created 4 important musical ideas to help tell this story. Let's listen to the first musical idea from Times Square. Imagine the happy-go-lucky sailor named Ozzie strolling through the city streets. Listen for how the music captures the bright mood and jazzy sounds of New York City in 1944. Here comes Ozzie. Did you notice the bright, upbeat melody played by the clarinet? The piano and snare drums give the music a breezy, bouncing feeling. Listen for the cha playing underneath the clarinet. Cha 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 cha. Now that you've heard the upbeat clarinet melody and the piano and snare drums cha, listen to Ozzie's music again. The second musical idea from Times Square helps you imagine the traffic jams, the hustle and bustle of cars and people, and the flashing lights in Times Square. Listen and imagine New York City. Does the volume of the full orchestra help you feel how loud and energetic New York is? The music's changing rhythms give the feeling of a busy place full of traffic and people. Can you hear moments when the orchestra plays short bursts of music that sound like honking horns? Beep, 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 beep. Listen to the hustle and bustle of New York City again, and pay attention to the loud volume, the changing rhythms, and the honking horns. Remember, Bernstein created 4 important musical ideas to help tell this story. Are you ready to listen for the 3rd musical idea? This musical idea helps you imagine Gaby seeing and falling in love with Miss New York. How does the composer use the instruments to create this feeling? Here she comes. The slow, relaxed melody in the saxophone solo helps you imagine glamorous Miss New York. Do the slower beats played by the piano and snare drum help you picture how she walks? Picture her footsteps as she walks. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The offbeat playing of the brass instruments gives Miss New York a swinging, jazzy feel. Listen for the wah-wah of the brass. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. Now that you know what to listen for in Miss New York's music, the saxophone, the slower beats played by the piano and snare drums, and the offbeat playing of the brass instruments, listen again. Here comes the 4th musical idea. This musical idea helps you imagine New York's subway system, where subway cars go whizzing by. Watch out, it's fast. Did you notice how the quick descending notes played by the woodwinds and xylophone create the feeling of subway cars zipping past? Listen again to the subway music. Now that you've learned about 4 important musical ideas from Leonard Bernstein's composition Times Square, let's play a listening game so you can practice recognizing them. In this listening game, you'll hear excerpts from Times Square. As you listen to each, decide which musical idea you hear. Remember, The 4 musical ideas you are listening for are A. Happy-Go-Lucky Ozzie, B. The Hustle and Bustle of New York City, C. Glamorous Miss New York, and D. Subway cars zipping by. To give you a challenge, we have scrambled the order of these musical ideas, so listen carefully. Let's get started with the first excerpt in the listening game. Which musical idea did you think was played? What instruments or rhythms helped you recognize it? Pause the CD now and discuss your ideas. The answer. Excerpt 1 is Subway cars zipping by. Here's the next excerpt. Are you ready? Which musical idea did you hear? What instruments helped you recognize it? How did the tempo or speed of the music help you figure it out? Pause the CD now and discuss your ideas. The answer? Excerpt 2 is Miss New York. Let's go to the third excerpt. Which musical idea did you hear? How did the dynamics or volume of the orchestra help you figure it out? Pause the CD and talk about your ideas. The answer? Excerpt 3 is The Hustle and Bustle of New York City. Now for the last excerpt. Pause the CD now and discuss which musical idea you heard. What instruments or other clues did you hear in the music? The answer? Excerpt 4 is Happy-Go-Lucky Ozzie. I hope you enjoyed learning about Leonard Bernstein's composition Times Square.